Good afternoon, First Squad. I'm your squad leader, Sergeant Duncan. I'll be conducting a route planning brief of our upcoming ambush mission. This mission will start, this is an unclassified briefing. This mission will start in the patrol base on the northern mountain in this ridge line here, and we'll conduct about a 50-meter movement south in between the sally of the two hills. This is a short movement, but we just want to establish our first checkpoint so we can begin our downhill ascent of this mountain. It'll be in a squad column fire team wedge at traveling, just a normal squad order with alpha team in the front. For our next movement, we'll conduct the downhill piece until we hit this house about 100 meters away. We'll be in squad column fire team wedge at traveling overwatch in case we suspect enemy contact at this house. If there's enemies in this house, we'll either clear it, depending on how many are in there, or we'll move around it and conduct an LDA crossing, moving 100 meters off of the road until we hit our next checkpoint. From there, we'll reconsolidate and begin our next movement. This will be about a 400-meter movement at a 62-degree azimuth. From checkpoint 2 to checkpoint 3, this is moving at about a 71-degree azimuth for 550 meters. This will be in a squad file at traveling, so we can conduct this movement very quickly. We'll know we'll hit our next checkpoint because we'll be about 100 meters away from the upcoming clearing. Now, once we hit this clearing, we're going to want to move our next leg west and follow around it, staying 100 meters away from this clearing. This will be in a squad column fire team wedge. Enemy is suspected because there's an observation post within our platoon's area of operations. So we suspect that the enemy will have their observation post within this clearing to give them the best tactical advantage. So in order to combat that, we'll stay at least 100 meters away into the tree line to prevent the enemy from observing us while we approach. This is about a 540-meter movement with no set azimuth because we're handrailing the clearing. For our next leg, this is about a 230-meter movement. It's very short, but the main amount of danger that we have is we're going to be conducting a stream crossing and an LDA crossing right here. Because it's the summertime, the streams will be full, so we'll just have to be sure that we maintain control of our equipment and our personnel. We'll move about 100 meters past it to where we reach our new checkpoint. We'll be in a squad column fire team wedge at traveling overwatch just in case when we conduct this LDA crossing we come into contact. This will be at about a 98-degree azimuth as well. For our next leg, this will be a 240-meter movement at about a 138-degree azimuth. We'll be moving in this direction, keeping the hilltop to our left and trying to contour this as we move up slightly in elevation to this ridge line right here. We'll be in a squad column fire team wedges. Enemy will be expected. We'll be traveling overwatch as well. Once we reach the somewhat top of this ridge right here with the hilltop to our left, we'll know we'll hit our checkpoint. Now, for the last leg of this, once we reach our checkpoint right here, we know that we just have to follow this ridge line down. There will be a somewhat flat spot right here. We'll keep the stream on our left and handrail it as we move down. This will be about a 240-meter movement. We'll be in squad column fire team wedge, moving and traveling overwatch because we'll be approaching the ORP in the kill zone, so enemy is suspected in this area. We'll try and maintain our military crest as we move along this hill to our left, so if there are enemy on top of this hill, they won't be able to see us as easily. And we'll know we'll hit the ORP because we have a backstop of this hill right here. If we start to move up too far into elevation, we'll know that we've reached our backstop and we'll be around the ORP area. Pending any questions, this concludes my brief.
I am Sergeant Hancock. I am the assistant squad leader to Sergeant Duncan, and I'll be briefing the alternate route. So for the first few legs from the start point all the way to checkpoint 3, it will be relatively unchanged from the original route, as we found it to be the best way to conduct the movement all the way to there. And we'll only deviate once we get to checkpoint 3, which is instead of going around the clearing, we're going to conduct an LDA crossing over the river. And that will initiate our first deviation from the original checkpoint, and that will be at a 200-meter movement for about 137 degrees azimuth. The enemy is not likely. However, we will be moving in a squad column fire team wedge and traveling overwatch because we are conducting an LDA crossing, and there's not much cover or concealment in that area. And as you can see, it is very open in that area. So moving on, what we're planning on doing is contouring the same elevation and handrailing around this mountain, so it'll be an easier movement without too much struggle up to checkpoint 8. And from there, we'll be moving from checkpoint 8 up to the original checkpoint 6 from the original route. Will be conducted in a, we're not expecting enemy contact. However, since we've done that LDA crossing over the river, there are possible enemies within the AO. So we'll be traveling in a squad column, fire team wedge, traveling Overwatch. And how we'll be traveling will be about a 500 meter, movement at roughly 44 to 47 degree azimuth. However, we're going to take a path of least resistance, which will be traveling up the spur of the mountain rather than having a set azimuth. And then we'll realize that we reach checkpoint 6 once we hit a low valley, and there'll be a mountaintop to the left of checkpoint 6. And once the elevation begins to increase once again, we'll realize that checkpoint 6 has been reached. And moving on, roughly be the same movement as from the original, from checkpoint 6 all the way to the ORP. We'll, once, just like in the original route, handrail the river to the left of us, and we'll realize that we get to the ORP once we hit a small valley and it begins to deviate upwards. We'll realize that that is the ORP. And if there are no further questions, that concludes our brief.